This video walks you through building the value model that we built in lesson 33. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my containment tree and create a new package called value model. And I'm going to put everything that I build for my value model in this folder. So I'm going to go ahead and now add a block in here and call it value model. And I am going to make it a part of Vista Design 1. And my value model is going to calculate out a value score for Vista Design 1, which is going to be a value property of Vista Design 1. I'm going to go ahead and add that in. And I'm going to make it, like using one word, value score. I'm going to make it type real. Alright, so my value model is going to have 4 value measures in this case. The battery duration, the size of the case, the range of the embedder, and the onboard processing time of the Android smartphone. For each of those value measures, there's a threshold and objective requirement. We're going to use those to create value functions where that threshold requirement value, like for the battery duration, which is 8 hours, is going to give a value score of 0. And the objective value, this for battery duration, 12 hours, will give a value score of 100. Similarly, the size of the item would be 1 and 0.5 for threshold and objective. Value measure 3 is going to be my onboard processing time, 3 seconds and 2 seconds. My fourth value measure is going to be range, and that's 20 and 30 kilometers. So I need to take in threshold, objective. I also need the weighting for each of those value measures. So I'm going to come over here, create a value property. I'm going to call it T1. I'm going to make it type real. Going to create another one, call it O1 real. That's the objective value. And now I'm going to do the same right here. Swing weight 1, also real. So now what I can do is I can go into my containment tree. So selecting containment tree. And you can see my value properties right there. And what I can do is I can just highlight those 3, go back up to my value model, hit Control V 3 times. That pastes those values down here. So the next thing I can do is I can actually assign those values based off my threshold and objective requirements. So my first value measure is battery duration. So T1 is going to be 8 hours. Object O1 is going to be 12 hours. I'm going to use a swing weight value here that we can say came from the stakeholder of 40. So T2 I'm going to set to be 1, O2.5, the swing weight of V2 of 50. T3 I'm going to set to be 3, O3 is going to be 2, swing weight 3 is going to be 100. It's my most important swing weight, clearly. And T4 is going to be 20. O4 is going to be 30. And swing weight 4 is going to be 70. So the next thing I can do is I can create a parametric diagram for Vista Design 1. I'm going to right click on Vista Design 1 and go to Create Diagram, Parametric Diagram. And I'm going to select my value model and all my parts that have a relevant value property. So case, central battery, processor, and transmitter. I'm going to move my value score over to the right hand side because that's going to be what I output at the very end of my value, at the very end of this value model. And Oh, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show the value properties in all of these blocks. I'm just going to highlight all of them, go to Display, Value Property. So I'm going to move that there. I have my central battery, which is value measure 1, my case, value measure 2, processor, value measure 3, and my transmitter range, value measure 4. I'm now going to also try to make these, try to move these so that it makes it a little bit easier. Alright. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build out my value function, which again is just a linear mapping between my threshold and objective values based off my raw scores. So I'm going to drag a constraint property onto my canvas right here. I'm going to call this value function. And in it I'm going to have four constraint parameters. T, O, raw, and score. And the equation I'm going to use is that score is equal to 100 times raw minus T divided by O minus T. The one issue that comes up though is that in the event that my value function has a value less than T, like a raw score less than T, I'll have negative value, and I don't want that. I just want it to go to 0. Similarly, if it's greater than my objective value, or better than my objective value, it'll give me a value score greater than 100, and I want to kind of max it out. So to do that, I can just use minimum and maximum. So I can go minimum 100. So in this case, if it's greater than 100, it will default to 100. Otherwise, it will default to that value. And I'll also do max 0. And that's going to effectively cap it at 0, so it can't go negative. All right, so I have my value function defined. And the next thing I can do is I can go to my containment tree. And I can see that I have my value function right here. I'm just going to paste it 3 times so that I have 4 instances of this. So hit Control C, Control V. And then this first one, just because the other two say 1, 2, and 3, I'm going to just name this one 4. I'm going to drag 1, 2, and 3 now onto the canvas. I'm going to have it display the constraint parameters. And let's just put them in order now. 4, 3, 1, 2. So the next thing I have to do is I have to start linking things together. Just move these over. Alright, so duration. This is my first value measure. I can just create those binding connections. O1 goes right here. O4 goes down here. Don't need my swing weights yet. T2 is right here. T4 is right there. O3 is right here. O2 is right there. T1 is up top. And T3 is right there. So now I'm going to go to Layout, Quick Diagram Layout, and cleans things up a little bit. So it's now a little more organized. The next thing I have to do is I have to calculate out my global weights based off my swing weights. I'm going to add in a new constraint parameter. I'm going to call it swing weight, calc. And I'm going to add in 2 parameters. Let's call it swing weight 1 and global weight 1. In this case, it's easiest to edit this in the containment tree. So let's go to the containment tree. But we actually have to edit the actual block. So scroll up. It's right here, swing weight calc. So we have swing weight 1, swing weight, and global weight 1. I'm going to Control C, Control V. And now I have the other three values: swing weight 2, swing weight 3, swing weight 4, and the associated global weights. So if I click on my constraint parameter, display, constraint parameters, those now appear. The next thing I can do is I can start putting in the equations. To do this, I'm going to go to the specification window for my swing weight calc. So constraints, and I'm going to type in my first one, which is global weight 1 is equal to swing weight 1 divided by swing weight 1 plus swing weight 2 plus swing weight 3 plus swing weight 4. I'm going to hit close, and I'm going to hide all parameters, display constraint parameters. You can see my equation pops up here. I did need those braces early on in here, so I'm going to go ahead and go back in here and take out those braces. Alright, so I'm now going to create 3 more constraints. So I'm going to hit create and then back just to so that they're there. I'm going to go and erase the name because I don't need the name. And I'm going to copy and paste this down. And I'm going to go ahead and change this value right here to being global weight 2 and swing weight 2, global weight 3 and swing weight 3, global weight 4 and swing weight 4. I'm going to now hit close. And if I go to display, hide all parameters, display constraint parameters, you can see all my equations now appear on here, as do my constraint parameters, and I can bind these values over to the associated point on this block. Alright. So the next, I'm going to move my global weights to the right hand side, just to make it easy. And the next thing I have to do is I have to add in another constraint block. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply my score by the associated global weight. So I'm just going to drag another constraint block. I'm just going to call this weighted sum. I'm going to add in a constraint parameter, I'm going to call it score1, and another one, GW1. So I can now go into my containment tree again, just like I've done a few times now. Go to weighted sum, copy that, paste it 3 times, display constraint parameters, and I need one more constraint parameter just as my output. So I'm going to call that value score. So the equation is pretty straightforward. It's going to be value score is equal to score1 times GW1 plus score2 times GW2 plus score3 times GW3 plus score4 times GW4. And now I can just do my binding connectors again. And then So this is value function 3 right here. When I arranged them, it changed the order. So I'm going to connect that to score 3, value function 1. So that's score 1, value function 2, score 2, and this one, value function 4, score 4. And the only thing left is I need to, if I zoom out, where's my value scores over here? So I now just need to create a binding connection from there to there. And I'm now going to do quick diagram layout again. And we now have our value model more or less built. However, now comes the fun part where we actually get to test it out. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save and go back to my BDD. You can see on here I don't have any values set. So let's go ahead, and I also, this kind of looks like a little bit of a mess. I'm going to hide all the constraint parameters. All right, that looks a little better. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set intermediate values for each of these. So I'm going to set my duration. Right now, 8 to 12 hours. So I'm going to set it to be the intermediate value. I'm going to set it to 10. My case needs to be between 1 and 0.5, so I'm going to set to the intermediate value 0.75. My range needs to be 20 to 30 kilometers, so I'm going to set it to 25 kilometers. I'm just doing this window as well. And my onboard processing time needs to be between 2 and 3 seconds. I'm going to do 2.5 seconds. Right. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate this block. So let's hit run, enter. And you can see right off bat that I have a value score of 50. And that makes perfect sense because I picked the intermediate value for each of these. Now suppose I go into my central battery and change that from being 10 to 8. I expect my value score to go down, and did. It went down to 42.3. If I change it to 12, it goes up. Let's look at a more important one, our value score for 100 for value measure 3. Right now that's set to 2.5. I set that to 3, so worst case scenario. And now drop to 38.46. But if I set it to 2, I go all the way up to 76.92. So we can see that our value model now works, and we can get a score out based off the parameters and using our value model. And the last thing that you need to do is you need to clean this up a little bit. So all these things for your value model are kind of buried in with all the blocks for your value model, constraint parameters, everything is kind of bundled in with your structural diagram. So I'm going to go ahead and just click. So value function, I'm going to drag that over to value model. My value model itself, I'm going to drag over. Swing weight calc, drag that over. Weighted sum, drag that over. And that way they're all contained in one area, and we should be good to go.